The Saline Solution presents Naked, the podcast series that pairs it all: real life experiences, how they were dealt with, and the lessons learned. Facing the person in the mirror always makes us check ourselves, accept our past, and guides us to make the decisions that are best for our peace of mind. Are you naked? Here's your host, Saline Griffith. This podcast is for adults 18 years and over.
Hey y'all, welcome to episode 7 of the Naked Podcast. Another great one is in store just for you. Today we're talking about spirituality, my journey to spirituality. And I titled it, I Feel It in My Spirit. Well, you know what that means when you have that gut feeling about when something is happening to you and you know it's either good or it's bad. Well, we're talking about that, and my guest today is Kaylin Bartholomew again. You know, when they say something is nice, you do it twice. Well, I enjoyed my conversation with Kaylin on mindfulness, and so I invited Kaylin back again for this episode to talk about spirituality. Her journey, my journey, your journey. We all have an individual journey when it comes to spirituality. But I also know we have to give some sort of importance to the foundation that we were given when we were younger. Because as children, when we are growing up, you don't have that sense of self, you don't have that sense of spirituality and what you're searching for. So it's basically the foundation that we've been given by our parents and grandparents. And I have to say I'm very, very thankful for that, because I think that is what led me to this place that I'm in right now, to know the importance of searching for God and who He is, what He is to me in my life. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as I did. It was really, really a beautiful one. Spirituality now, I'm at a place where I'm feeling as though I've realized is what makes you comfortable as the individual in going, being more spiritual and all of that is is whatever you feel in your gut, and you go with that. Growing up, of course, in the Catholic faith, and I'm really grateful for that, because at the end of the day, we knew what it was like to revere something or to turn to a higher power. We knew that. And I still do it with my children now, because I think it's important in terms of molding the mind and, life in general. So, but going through this process, this journey that I'm on now, I've realized that searching within is what will really, when you have that conversation with God, whoever we perceive Him to be, there was a big chunk of my life, and probably still is, a confusion as to who God is. But the time that you're taking to figure out who God is, you're really not going to that space. And sometimes you will get a message, sometimes you have a gut feeling, and you really feel good about it. You feel a presence, you feel at peace. And from what I've been saying lately is that is God. I don't want to put a definition on Him. That is God. So as a practitioner of mindfulness and yoga and all of these things, share with us, Kaylin, your experience with spirituality and what it means to you.
That's such a big question.
I know, right?
But I'm glad, I like how you posed it in terms of what it means to me. So let me just say, because I'm not a spiritual teacher, even though I teach spiritual practices,
Right.
or a guru in any way. So I will be able to share from my personal experience rather than as someone who is an expert or a leader in the field. Let me
That's
just
right.
kind of caveat by caveating that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, spirituality is really about connecting with whatever uplifts my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about feeling your gut, but for me, it's about feeling it in my heart. and you can't feel it in your gut. Again, all of us are unique, but I feel it in my heart. That's where I feel my spirit talking to me.
Right.
And so right now, I would say I definitely believe in God, and that He is in charge and in control of everything that happens in my life,
Yes.
and is guiding me on the path to fulfill my purpose here on earth. And the closer that I get to who my true self is and fulfilling that purpose, then I feel more, my spirit feels more alive and fulfilled. So I definitely feel that connection. I also feel like I have a relationship with him, like we can chat. And that comes, I mean, in prayer form, certainly. But sometimes it's like, okay, what is this? What is this? What are you trying to tell me here? And so
Yes.
sometimes we have a little casual conversation
Yes.
when I'm seeing him at work in my life. And especially when it goes against what I have designed in my mind as what I want or the direction I want to go. And I'm seeing him pushing me in a different direction, and I'm not quite ready to go there yet.
Yes.
We have that little conversation, but for me, it's really about trusting, and it's really been a journey of getting here. And we could talk a little bit about the history, but it's been a journey getting here. But it's, in a way, it is sort of relaxing to know that I don't have to be in control of everything. And
Exactly.
ultimately, there's somebody who's really working towards good in my life. So, ultimately, that's his aim, working towards good. And so, even if I'm going through something challenging, there's something in it that's good for me. And so, that having that faith and knowing that is something that brings me peace, particularly when I'm going through something challenging, and also allows me to really experience more joy and fulfillment in this experience of life in this plane.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like the part where you said, even in the challenging times, because I was about to say, sometimes when you get a difficult situation, you said, oh my God, please help me get out of this. And you pray, 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 and it still happened to you. And we said, the devil. I have realized that sometimes he put these things in your way to redirect you. That's not where I'm pointing you to. And it's all about sitting still and really listening to that inner voice guiding us. And he sends the
Yeah.
signs all the time, all the time. Now,
Yes, yes, and that inner voice to me is that as they say, the kingdom of God is within,
it is,
right? That inner
yeah.
voice is within us. That is God. So when I listen to myself, when I get closer to who I am, and understand who I am, who He created me to be, to me,
Yes.
that's connecting closer with God.
But do you think as a child we would have known to do these things, or we really had to rely on our parents and grandparents to guide us spiritually? Yes? Because we wouldn't know these things from children, from really, really young. And I recognize the importance of religion in that regard, right?
I actually think the opposite.
Really?
I think we know as children, and
Mm.
I think it's our what we're taught. We get more disconnected from the
Mm.
true essence of, because children know who they are,
Right?
right? Children also have to me, a deeper connection to the spirit. If you talk to people who have whose children have experienced loss, they can
Right.
often see their grandparents and talk to their grandparents, and they're speaking to someone in the spirit world as if, and I don't think it's something that they're imagining. I think they're really truly able to
Right.
connect in that way.
Mhm.
Um, like my daughter had certain intuitive tendencies as a child. They're just some things she will know, or
Right.
something that she would say. And it's like, how do you know this at 2 and at 3?
That
It
is
seems
true, you know.
unusual.
That is true.
And so maybe they couldn't put a name on it,
Right.
they couldn't label it. And often we dismiss it as imagination
Mm-hmm.
as adults. But I do feel like they have that because they are still pure in
Yes.
being and haven't been sort of altered by this world that we're living in, that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they have a more direct connection.
I think that is what I was alluding to because my niece is 4 and we are convinced that this child was here before.
Right.
We are convinced. She knows my mother's picture. She never met my mother. In fact, she was born 2 days before mommy's 1 year anniversary of her passing. So she doesn't know mommy at all.
Right.
And she saw the picture without my sister prompting her. She's like, this is my granny.
Right.
And there will be times when she will just, as a baby, newborn, she will just be looking up and smiling. And we were like, nah, this is unreal. And
Yes.
we've seen it with several children before. So while, yes, we may have dismissed these things before because at the point in time, we too may not have understood. But now you're in a zone where you're saying God is everywhere. He is
Right.
everywhere. I know a lot of persons believe that if you are religious, you are also spiritual. And that has its merit. It does. But as you rightfully said at the beginning of our chat, Kaelan, it is really and truly what you are experiencing, what you are feeling. And therefore, I really believe that there is no right and wrong. Honestly, what makes an individual feel good about themselves and want to revere that higher power is what is important. To know that there is one is what is important.
Yes, and
Uh,
I would say too, like that whole thing about religious versus spirituality,
mhm,
that you can be religious and not spiritual,
right.
right? Because some people are religious and they get really identified with the belief systems around the religion, right? And so they identify themselves as whatever their religion is.
Yes.
They're so identified with that
Mhm.
and their beliefs that anybody who doesn't believe the same thing, you are almost like an enemy
Yes.
to the point where we will kill, right? So the average Joe is not going to kill someone for
Mhm.
different spiritual belief.
Yeah.
However, we will judge them, we will speak badly about them,
True.
we will treat them differently. So there are lots of things that we will do even as religious people. But I think that we are all one and we're all here on this earth together,
Mhm.
right? And I believe that this one God put us all here. And
Right.
so to me, it's not really about those
How we
beliefs
worship. Mhm.
exactly,
Mhm.
but really how we treat each other. And so there are people who don't
Precisely.
go to church at all, but
Yeah.
to me are spiritual in terms of how they love and how
And
they
some
show
of the most
kindness and how they
beautiful
give.
human beings you would come across. Yeah.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So I don't think the two have to go hand in hand.
Right. Agreed. Because as I said, as a practicing Catholic, and my mom was a staunch Roman Catholic. So you would find that when I got pregnant, of course, I'm not married. So when I told her I was pregnant, we're going to church Sunday morning. She's like, oh, but you know, you can't go for communion because you're pregnant out of wedlock. I said, well, Jesus had to come down and tell me that. And I went for communion because what receiving communion, the symbol of receiving the Eucharist means to me, it's not even anywhere close to that whole uh, experience of what we went through for first communion and all of that. And yes, that procedure lent to it, and I understand, but it really does something to me, knowing that I've prepared myself that Sunday morning and just walking up to the altar to receive the body of Christ does something to me. It really does something. I'm guaranteed to break down crying as soon as I receive it. And it's not so much the literal thing in my hand, but it's the feeling and what it symbolizes to receive Christ.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, he will have to come down and tell me. And then when I get to the gates, I will answer for it. But I really feel convicted that now more than ever, I need it. you know.
Right.
But
Yeah, and that you see, and that again, that comes down to you connecting with not just the belief system or the
yes,
dogma that you were taught,
yes.
but to the essence of what you felt when you received it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I know for years I was also, I'm also a Catholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up going to Catholic church. And for many years, I hadn't gone for communion because I hadn't gone to confession. And
Right.
so I felt like I'm not worthy
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
Kenyan because I haven't gone to confess my sins.
Right.
And so it's really, you know, it depends on how attached you are to those beliefs and thinking. And I actually moved away from Catholic Church when I moved to the States,
Mm.
because I moved to the States and I went to a Catholic church. And when it was time for sign of the peace, there were people around me who shook hands with other people but wouldn't shake hands with me, right? The only
Wow.
difference about me versus everyone else would be the color of my skin,
Skin.
right?
Oh.
And yeah, and so I felt like, okay, so this is a place where I thought we all were one,
One. Mm-hmm.
and yet I am different from everyone else.
Hmm.
And so I didn't feel that same comfort that I felt with going to church here as I did when I moved
Went
to the
away. Mm-hmm.
US, right?
But that was the actual environment. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And so these are religious people,
Right.
but I didn't feel like warm and connected with them. And I feel like spirituality is a little bit more accessible,
Yes.
right? For people who may feel that they don't fit within a traditional religion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's whatever path gets you to that relationship with God, to that connection with God,
Mm-hmm.
that works for you. I think that's great. You can take any avenue. It's
Exactly.
not that one is better than the
Than
other.
the other. I remember one of my experiences. I love going up to Mount St. Benedict. I just love the drive up there. I love the feeling I get when I'm there. But the only thing that I don't like when I'm up there is the actual mass. Would you believe? Because it feels so disconnected. I sit there and I'm so distracted because I could barely hear. The audio is bad because of the acoustics in the church. The audio is bad, but I still love sitting there because I feel that presence. I feel, but I am never ever taking on what's going on up at the altar. And on top of that, I think it's too far away. But that's just me. A lot of people like to go there and understand what's going on. For me, with my short attention span, anything that sounds distorted or whatever, you will lose me altogether. But I've realized as well, I prefer, I still do prefer my Mass on a Sunday. I really, really love it. It sets the tone for me during the week, right? I love Sunday Mass. I love getting up and getting the kids ready to go to Mass. Well, of course, now we're doing it online because of COVID. So it's a bit different where that is concerned because I feel as though I could pick it up whenever during the day instead of starting off Sunday with it. But there were times when I wouldn't go to church on a Sunday and I would feel as though something's missing. And I really liked, and I guess we inherited that from growing up when mommy used to insist that we go to church on a Sunday. Sometimes I will feel my mother's presence next to me in church, holding the hymn book and pointing to me, which hymn we're singing right now. So it's all of these things have sentimental value, I believe. But going to church on a Sunday morning really does something to me. It sets the
Yeah,
tone.
yeah,
And I remembered now we have deacons like Deacon Derek and Father Imam. So these people really do bring the gospel to us in a different kind of a way. The experience, Father Stout, I remember him, and he's now down in Cuba, I believe. That experience is so different. So the way that they impart the teachings of the church is still a personal thing. It's an individual thing because each of them have their individual style. It's the same doctrines, the same teachings, but somehow the experiences are different.
yeah.
You
And I
know?
think it is personal, and I love to
Yes.
go to interreligious ceremonies.
Beautiful, isn't it?
I think it's so beautiful to just hear people from different religions speak, and the messages are so similar,
Oh my
right? So
gosh,
that's
yes.
where I always come back to. I mean, how can this we can say that there are different gods? There's just one God because they're all saying the same
Mm-hmm.
they're all sharing a similar message,
Correct.
but it's really beautiful to just experience it in a different way,
Yes.
and to
Yes.
open yourself up to hearing and understanding other people's experience of religion and spirituality, and really, especially when you see how it connects in your own personal life,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it comes down to it, as you're saying, when you're in that challenge, when you're in that difficult situation, I know automatically, right? I remember when we had that big earthquake a couple years ago,
Yes.
right? I never heard my daughter like praying so loud before, right? But it's when it's built into your system where you know that you
Correct.
have that protector, that
Mm-hmm.
in that challenging situation, then that's what you have, something that you can turn to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so at these times where things are challenging, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear and anxiety around the pandemic. People are losing their jobs and their incomes, and there's so much that we're facing, that I really feel like being able to have that spiritual connection, whether it be through religion, whether it be through yoga and meditation, whether it be through playing with your dog or walking
Yes.
in nature, because
Gotcha.
you can
Mm-hmm.
get your that spiritual connection through so many means, through
Mm-hmm.
creating art. For some people, that's spiritual for them.
Yes.
So it's about finding whatever that is for you, because I do believe we are mind, body, and
And the
spirit.
spirit.
So
Yes.
the more that we nurture each aspect of ourselves, the more that we are going to feel full and whole, really be able to bring our best selves to this world.
Now, tell me a little bit about yoga and how it aids the whole meditation process and all of that. And why do you think, as well, that people or religious leaders don't necessarily endorse that practice?
So that's a good question. So yoga actually means yoke. The word yoga means the yoke or the union of the mind, body, and spirit. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what yoga actually means. And yoga actually predates religion. So a lot of people associate yoga with Hinduism. And so
Oh,
that's usually where the disconnect is between Christian religions and yoga, because there's that association. But yoga, and I can't remember the full yogic history right now, but yoga predates the religion Hinduism. And so it's really more, it's a science more than a religion, and
oh,
it's more a philosophy and a way of being.
okay.
And some of these same principles of yoga are consistent with principles of Christianity, right?
Agreed.
And so for me, what yoga and meditation has meant for me is it actually has deepened my connection to God, in
Yes.
that it has made me more connected with who I am,
Mm-hmm.
really getting to the real essence of myself, not all the masks that I had put on for over all those years, or all the expectations that I thought were put on me by parents, by society, by
Cool.
teachers, and exactly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So removing all of those layers and taking off the mask and coming down to my true essence. And it's still a continuing journey, right? Every time I
Of course.
discover something, it's not that I'm there where I feel I'm at my core, but I definitely know I'm much closer to it now than I was before.
Right.
And so that being able to connect with that true me, my essence within myself, I feel more connected to God, because that person inside, that spirit inside of me, is who God is. That's the God that lives within me. And so it actually strengthened my connection with God, brought me closer in prayer, right?
Hmm.
Made me more in awe of just everything that He's created. Like when you look
Absolutely.
around in nature and creation, like really looking at that and being like, oh my God,
Hmm.
how, He created me as well as all of these
All of
amazing
this.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does, as you're saying, I mean, it doesn't take away all of my fear, all of my anxiety, all of my um automatic reactions. But certainly when opportunities present themselves to me, right, and the door is open, in fear, I might lean forward in fear and say, well, if God is directing me here, He's going to support me through it.
Of course.
Right. As we talked about on the last time, I talked about kind of my path and getting into this line of work that I do definitely feel God directed me here.
Yes.
So I feel, kind of concerned about finances or where I should go next. I always have that conversation. Okay, you sent me here, right? So you better show me what was the answer to this problem.
Yes.
And the answer always comes.
Hmm.
So we have to be open as well to being able to receive and see how God is working in our lives. So for me, it really has the two go hand in hand. To me, it's not like either yoga and meditation or it's
Wow.
religion.
Correct.
It's two go hand in hand. I will go to different church, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with going. My daughter is an Anglican. I'm a Catholic. We go to a Presbyterian church.
Mm-hmm.
I will go to Catholic church. I will go to, non-denominational church.
Yes. You
I am
know,
very open. If somebody invites me to something or somebody sends me a preacher speaking that they follow, I believe that the messages can come to us in many ways.
yes.
And if somebody sends me something, maybe there's something in that message that I need to hear right now. That's why I have.
Correct. Correct. I loved that. And I like the fact that we live in a society that embraces that. Because we will go to uh, a Hindu wedding and I will take in the entire ceremony because it still promotes love, it promotes unity. And
Yes.
every single religion may have the things that we don't agree with, every single one, because even in Catholicism there are things that I don't agree with. I have lots of questions, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trying to answer these questions. I just want to experience. I want to be in the moment. I want to experience God. He will reveal in time. Yes. And I remembered on a Saturday morning, my neighbor here is telling me two ladies in a car pulled up calling out Zaline, Zaline. And I was like, but who is this? No one will come to my house unless they call first. My friends know better. So I said, who are these people? I'm not owing anybody anything. So who are these two women? And then sometime I was home and they came by. They are Jehovah's Witness. And they remembered my name because I would stand up outside and have a conversation. Normally people have this image of Jehovah's Witness. You have to hide behind the curtain or whatever. But I'm like, they're doing what their religion is requiring of them to do, to go out and spread the word or whatever. Sometimes it may not be in the right time because on a Saturday morning, people trying to get their house in order. But I do spare the time because the fact that you're taking your time to do this, I want to support you in that. It may not be very long because it's not hot, but I would take the message, have a brief conversation, and say thank you. And it's not even ingenuine because I really do enjoy the discussion.
Right. And I mean, there are people who will do the same thing with telemarketers. And they have
Correct.
a conversation with them because they're doing their job.
Yeah.
And I want at least, acknowledge rather than hang up the phone on them. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of, to me, how we relate to each other, our humanity and what we bring. To me,
Mhm.
that's really our spirituality because we're here on
Correct.
this earth, to connect with each other
Yes.
and how we show up our impact is not just in terms of the work we do or our children. We see our children as our legacy or the work that we do, but
Mhm.
it's in every single interaction we have with people we meet. And
Yeah.
we have an opportunity to show that heart, to show God's kindness in
Yeah.
every single interaction, even if it's just by smiling at
Correct.
some or acknowledging someone's presence.
Because I have a sister who is a Seventh-day Adventist and really, really into it. Her husband is Muslim, but their household is run so perfectly. Well, I shouldn't say perfect because nothing is perfect, but they make it work. She
Yes.
respects what he has to do when it's Ramadan. He respects what her and the girls have to do. And Sometimes I will drive all the way up to the east on a Friday evening just to have the start Sabbath with them because I like it. I like that you could come together at the end of the week and talk about what you're grateful for. I love that. And I told my kids, I said, this is something that we will do in our home because it really is a way of closing off the week and just by saying thank you. So there are things from different religions, practices from different religions that you can do, and it doesn't have to make you feel guilty. You know, it's not like you're selling out on your own religion, but I don't understand how sometimes, and I'm not even saying that the Catholic Church does it or any church in particular does it, but sometimes you do hear it. You do hear it. Um, why are you doing this and you're a Catholic? Or why are you doing that and you're a Hindu? Why are you doing that? And I'm like, we are not here to divide.
Yeah.
We are not here to divide. And the fact that something is dividing us, it is not of God.
Yeah. And that's where I think that where we get too identified with the rules and
Correct.
the belief
Yes.
systems, right? So I think that that is part of the challenge
Mhm.
often, right? Where we get so connected and identified with those
Mhm.
that we don't see the bigger picture. I remember being in a prayer group with some people, and someone's cousin had gotten shot, right? And the person who got shot was a Muslim.
Mhm.
And the prayer was, I pray that he finds God
Yeah.
so that he can be healed, right?
I've heard that
And
before.
so it was like first they were first because, and that's because of their belief. So it's not that, you know, that they were being or not being kind or not wanting him to heal. They really were coming from a good place, but
Yes.
they really believed that he had to find God, Jesus first.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm saying God, but really they felt he had to find Jesus first to be able to be healed and to go to heaven.
Mhm.
And so it's, to me, it's sad when we can't just accept people for who they are and
Correct.
accept even our differences, and accept that you might choose to worship in a different way from me, but at the end of the day that we're all human beings,
Mhm.
and it's okay to have a different opinion on this.
I agree. I totally agree with you there. One of the things that I like about our faith, our Catholic faith, is that when it's Eid, we would say, you know, Eid Mubarak to the Muslim community. They're not in the church, but we're saying it because at the end of the day, we wish our brothers and sisters the best in their celebration, the feast that they're celebrating. And this is what, so in the prayer group meeting that you were in, when they said that they hope that he was able to find God. Yeah, we hope that he had a relationship with God because now he has to go meet him. But to say Jesus in particular, because I cannot watch somebody and tell them you need to be saved because you don't believe in Jesus Christ. I cannot bring myself to doing something like that. Even with the homosexual community, I have many friends who are homosexual. I I don't endorse it for me personally, but I'm not going to cast you aside. I'm not going to say you're not worthy of my presence because I don't do what you're doing. No, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not even seeing myself as a hypocrite either because I do love you as a human being. You are still here. You're still the same person who brings joy to me. You bring a laugh to me. How you choose to live your life, that's between you and God. Honestly. Honestly.
Exactly.
So all of the
Exactly.
fighting about these things is really there to divide us and to distract us from being connected to God. That is how I see these things, you know?
Right. And so I guess it's because you have a more open mindset.
Yeah.
And so there are people who believe that my job is to help you to see the light.
Right. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
light might be whatever I deem is the way to heaven. And
Yeah.
so it's really about whether I think that that's my responsibility, if that's my purpose here on earth,
Mm.
versus, you know, just accepting people as they are, living my life according to my beliefs and my values, and trying to live as much as I think Jesus would, for example, as a
Right.
Christian.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's where I think the disconnect is. If you really believe that your purpose is to get people to Jesus or to Allah or whatever your religion is, then you will approach situations and people a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I am of the same a similar belief to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, live and let live.
Live and
Allow
let live.
people to believe however, whatever they believe.
Mm-hmm.
And if through my life and how I live my life, that someone chooses to follow the path that I follow, then that might be, you know, the way that I can share and teach others,
Yeah.
but not that I feel like my obligation is to get people to follow a particular path.
Oh,
Even when I teach
well
yoga,
said.
I always speak of the God of your own understanding,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, it's I know which God I am speaking about, the one that I talk to, I have a relationship with, I see working in my life every single day. And so for you, that God might be different, but I believe we can do the same practice and
Mm.
still feel that connection to the spirit.
Agreed. And one thing that I had to come to terms with that makes me comfortable, even if I'm wrong in the way that I'm going through my life and the way that I believe the spirituality, I believe who God is, when I get to Him, whenever that day is, we'll talk about it. But to know that we are here to serve each other, we are here to live in love, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and
And
we're imperfect, huh? All of us are imperfect at
exactly,
it. So there's
exactly.
some days where we might be really good at it, and we're kind and loving and compassionate and sharing and giving. And there are other times where judgmental and harboring negative emotions and getting angry and resentful and bitter.
Yeah,
So we are all both. And so
so
we're not,
true.
and I'm not any better than someone else who's trying
Correct.
to do the same thing. And so let's all just continue trying to share and support and give each
Hmm.
other, and just recognize and acknowledge that this spirit does exist, and try to enliven that within yourself in whatever way that makes sense for you.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And another thing that upsets me, and yes, whoever is listening, this upsets me, when we're leaving church on a Sunday and people rushing in the car park, boy, where's the where's the love? Where's the love? I usually just let people go because I said, you know what? We are human first.
We are.
We are
We
human first, and as you rightfully said just now, Kaylin, we are not perfect. Because there will be things that I am doing that people will be like, look at her, she's a heathen. What kind of behavior is that? And I'm like, God and I talking, oh. And he never said that I was perfect. He never said that I had to be perfect. I just needed to love my fellow man. And it's
exactly.
I like to simplify things so that I could understand it. And that's what I understand.
Yes, yes. And that's a good way. And I think the other thing is to make sure we love ourselves.
Yes.
Because I do feel that, again, if we believe that God lives within us, that He, the most perfect being, created all of this world and us, how can we not love ourselves?
Hmm. That's
Right?
true.
Because that is we are a representation of Him.
So
And
true.
so sometimes coming back to who we are, loving ourselves, when we put ourselves down or we feel like we can't do that, we're not strong enough, we're not good enough, we're not young enough, we're not pretty enough, all those
Hmm.
things that we say to ourselves,
Yeah.
really coming back to who are we talking about, right?
Hmm.
We are part of this being,
Yes,
right?
yes,
We
yes.
are a representation of this being. And so just kind of getting out of our own heads and reconnecting with that is a real source of strength and
So
power. Been
true.
really powerful for me as somebody who used to beat up on myself a lot,
Yeah.
and when those thoughts do come back, because again, they do surface
Yes.
from time to time, and I have to remind myself, who am I, right?
Hmm.
I know who I am.
Yes.
I
Yes.
know who I
I
am.
love that. I love that. This week here itself, I've had some really tough mornings. You're getting up, and I'm like, I'm really not feeling. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time. And I remembered saying, why are you saying these things to yourself? I identified that there were times within this week I felt angry. I felt a little bit of jealousy coming up, and it wasn't even anything in particular. You would see something and you'll be like, why wasn't this for me? You know, that kind of thing. And I was like, but why? Where are these thoughts coming from? And immediately I said, God, show me what is not of you that's happening within me right now so that I could deal with it. Because I don't understand where this conversation is stemming from. And for me, that is where my spirituality lies. At first, I would be like, oh God, I need to go confession. And then I'm like, no, but you don't need to do that. I just confessed. I just confessed. I just said, God, I've recognized that I'm angry for no reason. This person is irritating me this week. They don't even know they're irritating me, but something about their presence this particular day was just rubbing me the wrong way. And I said, please forgive me because this is your child too. Please forgive me. But whatever it is, enlighten me or show me whatever it is that they are doing or whatever is in me that's causing me to feel this way towards them. Let me see what it is. Because these people going about merrily about their way, and it's people that I love, but they're going about merrily, not even knowing how much they're upsetting me. But I'm saying, but you're not being true to yourself, Celine, because here it is, you thinking about this person and saying they're real irritating, but you're still smiling with them. But that is me trying to save a relationship because I wouldn't come out and say, because I'm in a moment where I'm irritable and I can't even define why I'm irritable. So what's the point in coming out and saying, why are you doing this? And I don't like that you did that. I don't see the point in doing that. Let me deal with what is happening within first. And if it's really something external, I will then approach the person. And by that time, in approaching them, it's coming from a place of love and of peace because I would have had a conversation with myself.
And even often, if we think about it, there's really nothing to approach the external because we don't have control over that. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
if they choose to be that way,
Hmm.
then that's their choice,
Oh
and
God,
we
that's
don't have
something I have
control
to
over
learn.
that.
I
We
really
have
have to
to
learn that.
we can control how we perceive and react to that situation.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes again, we can look, it's easy to look outside. It's
Mm-hmm.
not always easy to look inside. We don't
Yeah.
like to see the darkness within ourselves. That's often difficult for us to watch. But a lot of what you're seeing, and a lot of what I'm sharing as well, really starts from a place of having a relationship with God.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to just address that, because if you don't feel like you have a relationship with God, maybe some of what we're sharing doesn't really resonate. So as somebody who I grew up going to church more out of obligation
Mm-hmm.
than out of a real connection. So
Mm-hmm.
you talked about that experience of going up for communion, and how the energy that you feel. I can't relate to that at all.
Okay.
I went there for communion, right? And then I went outside the church to Lime, right, with the whole
Oh,
outside
I
crew,
had my
right?
moments of that. Huh? I had my moments
Right?
of that too.
So it was more out of obligation. This is what we do,
Yeah.
right? I grew up going to church, and this is what we do. And then we got to a certain age where we didn't have to go anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
I used to continue going because I used to take my grandfather when he couldn't drive anymore. And so I felt that it was my obligation to church.
Right.
And then, as I said, I moved away and I didn't have that connection to church. And so, in all that time, even though I would pray, I prayed sort of more by rote, as opposed
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
really true belief in these prayers are going to be answered, because I hadn't really experienced or seen God working in my life.
Mm.
And it was really only as I started to work on myself
Mm.
and to really try to figure out who I am, that I was able to develop a closer relationship to God, where I actually do feel that He is working for me and is directing the course of my life. I really felt I was in control of many things in my life.
Mm.
And if things didn't happen, it was either, or that He controlled was to punish me. So if something
Right.
didn't happen, it's because I sinned, and I didn't deserve it. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was the understanding that I had of God before.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the course of sort of doing work on myself, um, reading different religious texts, talking to people of different getting more into spirituality and reading more things along those lines, that I'm able to connect with God in a different way
Right.
and see God. Whereas there may have been opportunities to see Him in my life before, but
Mm-hmm.
my eyes weren't open to
Open
it.
to that, yes.
And now I see it in even really small things. I could tell you one day that it was when we had school. I wouldn't usually put on tea on a school morning because I'm rushing to get out the door. But this morning I woke up earlier than usual and I put on the kettle and then completely forgot about the tea, right? Jumped in the car to go and drop my daughter to school. And I had meetings all day, so I would have been out all day. And then I realized I left my phone home. Because I was going to be out all day, I turned around and I came back home to get my phone,
Wow.
heard the kettle whistling,
Wow.
right?
You see?
So that would have been on for the entire day. And I
Mm-hmm.
was upset. Oh my God, why I was like so organized today. Why I had to leave my phone home? So I was early. Now I'm leaving my phone, have to
Yes.
turn around, and now I'm going to be late, right? And then that turned out to be a blessing in
Yeah.
disguise.
Yeah.
So really being able to see
Mm.
those times where he's there and he's guiding, right? Another situation I'll give you is where I didn't listen. So I had chosen to, I was going to a pharmacy to pick up a particular something for my aunt, right? So I had to go into this pharmacy to buy something. And it was at a particular pharmacy I had to go. So I called them early in the day to say, what time do you close? So just have a sense to make sure I could get there on time. When I showed up, there was a close sign on the door, right? But I said, but I called them, they said they were going to be open. So I
Right.
said, somebody must have flipped that sign by accident. As I walked in the door, I walked into a robbery in process. And so get
My
down on the
God.
floor, armed robbery. So they came and I was down on the floor with a gun to my head, and I had to give my wallet. I left my phone in the car, so I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have my phone, but they asked for my wallet. And I thought to myself, the sign was right there, closed,
Was there?
right?
Wow.
But there
Wow.
I was deciding that I had to go in
Go
anyway
further. Yes.
see what was going on.
Wow.
So I mean, it turned out fine. I thankfully walked in on the tail end of the robbery, and so they were almost done by the time I got in there.
Hmm.
But it just shows you that sometimes the signs are there, and it's up to us to say, okay, is this a sign from God as to what I should be doing versus is this my own kind of fear, apprehension, right? That's
Oh
holding me back.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a fine
It
line to
is a
know,
very thin line. Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's really about having that faith and
Yeah.
trusting in that feeling, whether it be in your gut, whether it be in your heart,
Hard. Mm-hmm.
and allowing yourself to get quiet enough to connect with the feeling
Hmm.
to know what step you should take.
Wow.
And we are going to make missteps along the way, but I believe again that He will redirect us. So we went left instead of going right. Then
Hmm.
lower down the road, He's going to get us back towards
Yep.
the right path.
Yep.
Again, we just have to stay awake. And
Exactly.
in this really fast-paced world,
Hmm.
right, where everything is just moving so quickly, it is so important to create that time, to carve out time to build that connection, that relationship, so that we can always
Be at
hear,
peace. Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
and know where we're going.
Talking experiences here. We're talking about individual experiences. And this is what I have realized that spirituality is your individual experience. And oftentimes we'll find ourselves feeling guilty that I don't follow a particular religion, I don't belong to a church. And you hear, because some of the religious leaders, I like to take in their sermons as well. But sometimes you would feel as though you're missing something in your life. But that's when you really are looking outwardly. And I want to encourage our listeners to this particular episode. I hope that the message is clear for you and that everybody's journey is different. Everybody's journey is different. So you might be at that space in your life right now where, yes, you believe in a particular church and a faith. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Because if this is what makes you feel closer to God, then that's what it is for you. And I honestly did. So my solution to this entire topic of spirituality is whatever you feel in your gut or your heart or your mind is really, really what God is talking to you about.
Yeah. And if you have that yearning in your heart to know more. So
Yes.
if you're feeling that guilt, it might not be guilt per se, but it might be your heart saying, I want to know what they're feeling. I want to know
Yes.
what they're experiencing. What do they get out of it? I want to be able to understand that. And maybe that's the door for you. So
Yeah.
ask questions, explore, try things out, see how they fit, and
Yeah.
just be open, because you know how your relationship with God develop and will continue to evolve over time, depending on what you're going through at a particular point in time, depending on who you surround yourself with,
Yes.
right? So your experience might be different, but just kind of listen to that yearning and follow it, and you will find what you're looking for out there.
I agree. I totally agree. And I really do hope that everybody finds that connection. It's a lovely place to be. And it's not even to say that you find it and that's it, because we're still finding, we're still discovering. He's God, whoever He is, our creator, that superior being, is infinite. And therefore, our our journey into that is going to be infinite as well. Our understanding is going to be infinite, where we some days you get up and you feel like there's no God. Where are you? Who are you? I have days like that where I feel like, who is God again? And you have to say, okay, what's causing you to think like this? And you go through your process. But I really believe that if we try to force what we believe on others, this is what causes division, and we don't want that. That's not what God put us here for.
Exactly. And God will guide them in their way where they have
Exactly.
to go. So
Yeah.
just if you believe that, just allow the grace to carry them on their journey,
Hmm.
and you continue living the life that you believe that you are supposed. So thank you for having me.
Thank you
It's
so
great to
very
have this
much. Yes,
discussion
yes.
with you. And this whole topic of spirituality is one that I generally shy away from, to be honest.
Hmm.
The whole
Hmm.
concept of religion and spirituality,
Yeah.
because people have really strong beliefs about it. And so that's why it was important for me to caveat at the beginning, I'm not coming here as any guru.
Exactly.
However, for me, it is an important part of my life. And as someone who promotes wellness and really believes in that, taking care of the three aspects of ourselves,
Right.
that this is an important part that we should not neglect.
Absolutely. You see, the thing is, the quality of life is about people having mutual respect for each other. And every single religion or every form of spirituality in its core always tells you about loving your neighbor as yourself. And I really, really enjoyed this conversation because the part of it for me that I was confused about is making that distinction between being a Catholic and practicing meditation and spirituality and yoga, not realizing that I really could fuse the two. And it's all about your individual experience. And I really do hope that you are experiencing that. And if you're not, that you're on your way to receiving that message in such a manner that you are so comfortable knowing that God is speaking to you and guiding you as to how you should have an interaction with Him. It doesn't really matter which church you go to, which religion you belong to, uh, or that you practice yoga. you shouldn't have to be in a position that makes you feel like you're doing something wrong when you're really trying to create that sense of belonging or establish for yourself that sense of belonging. So, guys, this is me getting naked again, and I thank Kaylin Bartholomew for sparing her time to chat with me again. And remember, you can find Kaylin on Facebook and Instagram on Spirited Natural. Also, feel free to leave your comments about this week's episode for me on the Saline Solution on Facebook, or you can check me out on Instagram, the Saline Solution, Saline G. Always happy to hear from you. Thank you so much for doing what you do for the Naked Podcast. I really enjoy your engagement and your feedback. So don't stop. Don't stop. All right. Thanks again to Cam Productions for assisting with editing for this week's episode yet again. And of course, always remember, be a good human. Ciao for now.